Hello, and welcome to Talk.Therapy.Heal, where a group of licensed professionals come together with curated conversations, also to provide you tips, tools, and strategies to live a better life. Join us today.
Hi, I'm Kenya.
Hey, I'm Rachel.
Hey, I'm Larisha.
I'm Yanika.
All right, y'all. My name is Chantrell. And what we're going to do is we're going to pick up where we left off.
Yeah.
The last episode was so juicy good that now we had to come back with a part 2 because we was barely touching the surface of that. And so just to kind of give a little bit before we kind of jump into it is one of the main things that we did was identify what daddy and mommy issues. So that's what we're talking about, part 2, daddy and mommy issues. But we identified what that could look like in your adulthood and how it could be connected to your childhood.
Yeah.
So let's pick it up.
So in our last episode, I was talking about how God revealed or showed to me that the way I view my husband or how I even saw him was an issue, right? I didn't trust. I had trust issues. And that all stemmed from a daddy issue. So God kept telling me to trust him. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I am trusting you, God. I'm trusting you. Mm-hmm. He's like, no, you ain't. Mm-hmm. So he always presented that to me. I mean, like, you know how people say, well, I prayed and I got my word from God and my word is this or that. My word was always trust. And I was like, God, when you going to give me a new word? So then I'm starting to think like, girl, is that you? Giving yourself that word. But no, it was God truly revealing to me that I hadn't trusted. And when I went back, I like to journal. So I sit in my closet and I sit on my floor, sit on whatever my chair in there, and I will just have candid conversations with God about where I'm at and how I'm showing up and what's going on. And then part of that came from me going in there to talk about my husband. I want to talk about him to God. Like, God, you need to fix him. It wasn't him. It was me. It was how I was viewing him that God started to show me that there was an issue with trust. And as I'm sitting there in the closet and digging back even more, it was revealed to me that stemmed from not having a father figure in my life, that I didn't know how to trust men. And so we were talking about learning to do those types of things or learning to trust, but I had to go down into the root and find out that there was a deeper trust root issue for me. It wasn't that I couldn't allow my husband to be a man or be the man in the relationship or in our marriage. I didn't trust him to be because I didn't know how to trust him to be. So I ended up having to apologize to him because I was holding him accountable. And I mentioned in the last episode too, that when he would go to provide and go out and do work, if he had to leave or whatever it is that he was doing, I felt abandoned. And just even thinking about it now, I was like, girl, how can you associate abandonment with him providing? But that was my mindset. Like, you're leaving me. Because I didn't know what the role of a man was really supposed to be. And the men that I did see in my life, when it came to roles, no one really stayed.
Yeah.
So that made it difficult for me to see him in this role as a provider that I can trust to stay and not leave. Therefore, I had an issue then with trusting God to provide what I felt like I needed, especially when I felt like my prayers weren't being answered. God, you ain't hearing me. I can't trust you either. Or can I? I'm telling y'all, it went deep. It went deep. But that revelation of that, God helped me to see that, and I began to heal from that. And it started with me first recognizing. So I always tell my clients, it's one thing to become aware of something, right? It's a whole nother thing to address it. And then after you addressing it, you have to have changed behavior. So I had to do something different. So I couldn't just become aware of it because me knowing that I was behaving like this wasn't going to change anything. I had to do the work to actually make those changes. So when we say do the work, I had to take the steps to go through the process of determining, okay, what is the behavior that I'm seeing? What is it that I don't like about it? what is it that I want to see? And then implementing those things that I do want to see. What is it going to look like? The action behind it. And then maintaining that. So consistently, I had to choose every day to see my husband different. I had to choose every day to know that him going and providing and doing the things that he was doing was nothing against me, but it was what he was taught to do as well, and providing as a spouse, as a father. And then I had to see God as that provider as well.
Yes.
It all went down to me seeing the issue and making that conscious decision
Yeah.
to want something different.
Girl, when you were just talking about the roles, I'm like, God, we can take this both naturally and spiritually. Like, what is the role of our mother? What is the role of our father? And then what is the role of God, our Father?
Mm-hmm.
And like, we got to have accurate views of them,
That's
right?
right.
We have to have realistic expectations of these roles in our life. When I think about God, my Father, he's not only my provider, but he corrects, he loves. His word says he prunes. You know what I mean? Like, that means he does rebuke us, and like he tell us no. I mean, we got to understand the role of God, our Father, but also our earthly Father.
Yes.
Their role is to produce us. We come from God, right? The word says that we are baptized and we become adopted sons. And so therefore, God, our Father, he does all these things, but he loves us ultimately. And sometimes we can see God as disliking us, but that's not a true reflection of who he is. So we have to know who God, our Father, Abba, is to us, right?
Yes.
Because there's a scripture in Deuteronomy that talks about how the Israelites, they were unwilling and rebellious to go into the land that belonged to them. And then they were like grumbling and complaining. And then they said, God hates us. It's like, God never said that. That's their perception.
Yeah.
So I encourage you to check your perception of God the Father. Check your perception of your mother and your earthly father.
I love that you say that, because I have this thing written down about intimacy and relationships, and I know that's your area. But when we have those unresolved mommy-daddy issues, we struggle with intimacy. We struggle with fears of vulnerability, difficulty forming secure attachments with partners, which leads to patterns of emotional distance,
Right.
codependency, and dysfunctional relationships. And that's all of what I experienced in my experience with how I saw God and how I saw my husband. There was nothing secure about that. Nothing secure. As a matter of fact, I would say I landed more closely to an anxious attachment.
Right.
Anxious attachment. Yes.
So I would say pause. And I would like for you to rate what type of attachment style you are currently having with God the Father, with your earthly mother and your earthly father. Can you go back over them again, the types of attachment?
Okay, you got it? Okay.
Yeah. So you have the secure attachment, of course, which is a stable, sustainable type of attachment. You also have the anxious type of attachment. And so with the anxious type of attachment, there's that sense of I'm going to be left or I'm going to be rejected. But not only that, there's also the avoidant. And so anytime someone draws near, your point or your purpose is to get away, thereby avoiding the connection or the attachment. And then there's disorganized, which is actually a combination of the anxious and the avoidant. And so
Like you want something, but then you're afraid to get it.
It's double-minded.
Like I want to be loved. I want to be loved, but I'm afraid of being loved at the same time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So just reflect. I just want to encourage you to just examine. And it's okay. Just be honest with yourself. You are safe when you're honest with yourself, and so then you know how to approach it. What angle you need to heal from.
Yeah. Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
You know, I sit up and think, I'm thinking about how we were preparing our topics and how we speak about the attachment style when it comes to mom and dad issues. And one of the things that I know we had noted down when we were all preparing was, like, for example, in the workplace. So if someone doesn't, if they're not secure in themselves, I've often seen where, for example, they will abuse their power to take control. Or if somebody say they're going on vacation, I think this job is no longer for me. I'll put in my 2-week notice, and how the person reacts kind of irate. What is it in a person? And as we're talking about the attachment styles, it made me think, what is in a person where you feel like you have the right to control someone else? So I'm thinking about it from a relationship standpoint. So whether that be workplace, whether that be in organizations that you belong to, in your family, because how many of you, oh Lord, how many of you, your family still view you as a child when you're an adult?
Yeah. That's it.
Say again?
That's the issue.
It is. How damaging can that be? And I remember I was having a conversation with one of my siblings, and we were just trying to figure something out when it came to in our family. And I was like, you know what the problem is, right? What is that? They still see little Shan. They don't see adult Shan. I don't take the time to get to know adult Kenya, because I still see him as little Kenya, even though he's a whole grown adult with a family. So it makes me, I'm sitting up here wondering, as you all are speaking, what is that in a person? It could be mommy and daddy issues. It could be I was abandoned. It could be my mom and dad. This is one that we didn't talk about in the first one. My mom and dad has favorites. My mom and dad favors or I've seen this as well. And I'm like, oh my goodness, this is common, but definitely dangerous. Think about how you have a dad, a mom, a son, and a daughter. And you have one parent that favor one and one parent favor the other. Think about that. How damaging can that be? That's still, to me, kind of line up with mommy and daddy issues.
So you, if I understand what you said what creates the person desiring to control.
Yes.
But if you look at it, disorganized, if a child experiences a parent that has the disorganized type of expression of emotion, it's inconsistent. You know what I mean? So the kid is not going to know, you know what I mean, which side of the parent they're going to see or which side of the parent they're going to receive. And so as they get older, they throw that control out in order to manage their situation, because things have been so inconsistent. Does that make sense? In childhood. So they exert that control in order to maintain some sort of peace or some sort of order. You know what I mean? Versus, I guess, the other extreme would be to just become invisible.
Oh, wow. I see that with clients as well.
I'm just going to shrink back.
Yeah. I just stay in my little corner. They say, no, she's fine or he's fine. There's a moment of silence again. Wow.
So then how do you, I guess, help a kid or an adult who has struggled with shrinking back or becoming invisible, and they're trying to, I guess, overcome or heal, right? Or seek closure from daddy and mommy issues? Is it possible? Like, we know it's possible, right? But how can we help someone else out there who is thinking like, yeah, but y'all don't know. Y'all don't know the life I lived. You don't know the type of parents I had. Like I think we talked earlier in the first show about part 1 about that parent who is emotionally immature. So they can't handle having that type of conversation. So what do we tell people who knows that their parents are not, that they are emotionally immature, so they can't heal from that?
So like,
go ahead.
I would just say, like, I've done this work before with the client, just allowing them for me to sit with them and allow them to go back to a certain moment or a certain memory and allow them. So we will just kind of role play, and I will, have them close their eyes and imagine that, they are watching this event take place. And then I will walk them through the idea of them going in as the as the adult version talking to their little self,
Mhm.
right?
Mm.
And just, acknowledging what happened, just validating like that was scary,
That's it.
that was messed up.
Mhm.
I hear you, understand, and give that little version self the assurance that I'm here with you.
Mhm.
So what you're saying
That's
is
it.
that inner child work,
Yeah.
Mhm.
tending to that inner child.
Yeah.
And I know when we talk about inner child work, a lot of times in our field, it makes sense to us.
Mhm.
But when you're talking to somebody who has no idea, they're like, you only talk to my little self. I didn't even know that person exists. I'm grown. But that little boy, that little girl is inside of you. And those points, like you're saying, going back to the point of reference,
Yeah.
the point of when the
Injury took place.
Yes, that's what I'm looking for. Thank you. Yes, when the injury actually took place, you're going back there and tending to the person who was actually hurt.
Yeah.
And it might not be your adult self, because if you think about it, and that's what I tell my clients all the time, how would your adult self handle that? And they give me their way of how they would handle it. But it's not your adult self then who's dealing with it. It's your child,
Right.
your inner child who's dealing with that. And you have to tend to them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then it just shifts into reparenting.
Yeah.
So how do you reparent yourself?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know what this make me think about? And it's something because I give this to my clients as an assignment as well, especially when you speak about the little child,
Write a letter to them.
Unprisoned,
Mhm.
Oh yeah.
Mhm.
That
with
show.
Kerry Washington.
That show.
I haven't seen that.
It is amazing.
You have to watch it. A therapist wrote that. I believe
Yes,
it.
I'm believing it
my
too.
core.
Unprisoned
It's on Hulu.
with Kerry Washington. And so basically, as you all say about the child,
Inner child.
yeah, the inner
Mhm.
child or whatnot, they have the depiction. And you are right. They had a therapist that walk alongside of the writer to say, no, it should be like this, it should be like that.
And it was something that Kerry Washington, being the main character, was a therapist herself,
Yes.
Mhm.
experiencing all of this stuff,
Okay.
still having to deal with her inner child. Her
Mhm.
inner child was always in the driver's seat,
Mm.
always driving. And
Mhm.
what kids really know how to drive.
Right.
I will always say to my clients, check the voice.
Mm.
Because the adult version will say no to mistreatment, right? But little you will people please.
Yeah.
Just so you
Mhm.
can
Would
get their
justify it.
acceptance, right?
Yes.
So check the voice, the tone, the motive behind what you're doing or what you will allow to accept when certain things, manifest.
Mhm.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And what I'm hearing, and I think you said this in another show too, something about those wounds, childhood wounds. They are wounds. They're oozing, they're bleeding, and they're bleeding over into that adult who's trying to adult,
Right.
but can't, because again, that child is in control.
Mhm.
Mm.
Would you
Yeah.
really want, or would you really allow a 6-year-old version of you or a 6-year-old child to tell you what to do?
Mhm.
But that's what happened.
That's
Yeah.
exactly
Yeah.
what happened.
That's how people are led sometimes.
Wow.
Mm.
That's
So
something.
when you think about, how kids throw tantrums, right?
Mhm.
And so adults, this is why I think adults have an issue with even addressing their inner child, because I'm not acting like a child, I'm an adult. But those kids throw tantrums. And so can y'all say or think about some of the clients that you've dealt with, what those tantrums look like in an adult?
You shut down.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You withdraw. You get an attitude. You
Mhm.
pop off. We talked about being petty.
Uh-huh.
Right? I'm gonna get you back. That's being childlike.
With love and affection.
Saying, girl,
Wow.
especially in a marriage.
Mhm.
Ooh,
Mhm.
you
So
hurt
that's
me,
me.
I'm gonna hurt you back, and I'm gonna hit you where it hurts.
Hurts. Mhm.
So that makes me think about misguided or misdirected feelings, I guess I'm saying emotions.
Mhm.
And I think people do it often. Who I'm really mad at is my mom, my dad for what they didn't do, but I'll take it out on the best friend. I'll take it out on my children.
Mhm.
I'll take it out on, you know what I'm saying?
Take it out on the people that you feel safest with, because you feel
Who's
like they
closest to
won't
you.
leave.
Mhm.
Right.
They won't. It's almost like, I feel like we know, or it's that sense of, I can say these hard, harmful things to them, and they're still gonna show up.
They'll accept
Because
the
you
abuse.
Yeah.
You know?
Yes.
You did. You remain. And you have to because you're a kid. You can't
Right.
run.
Yes.
Right.
And then that goes into the whole expectation thing. Now you're expecting people to stay and take your foolery.
Some won't. And they
some
will leave
won't,
and then you
and
get
they
rejected.
And now you feel abandoned. And now we
Right.
repeating the cycle with this whole anxious attachment and then the disorganized because you don't know what you want. I want to love you, but if I love you, I don't know what's going to happen. So let me pull you, but let you go.
Yeah.
Pull you,
So-
let you go.
So what are some of the languages you guys have used in practice with your clients to reparent themselves? Like what are some of the tools or language that you've used?
I talk a lot about validation. And I always ask them, what do you need? What do you feel like you need right now? I want you to go within yourself and tell yourself or ask your little girl or that little boy in you, what do you need right now? How can I be of help to you right now? One of the other things that I found to be really helpful in helping people process or deal with their inner child is to have them get a picture of themselves at that age of where the injury took place. And they go back and they look at that picture and they talk to that child.
Yes.
And I always ask too, like in that moment, and this is always key to that you're an adult. As an adult, thinking from your adult-like mind, if you were that age or someone else, another person was your age right now that the injury happened to you, what would you say to them? What would you do for them?
Yeah.
That helps them to learn to reparent themselves, to learn to be okay, to be compassionate with themselves. It teaches them to get in tune with the feelings of what that little girl needed. I had one client, she had locked her little girl self in the basement. So I used her body her body as an analogy to a house. And so we went through and we had to clean up the house. She had a lot of doors closed. It was dark in there. She would tell you, like, you go in, it's dark in here. It's dark. The only light that came in is when you open the door in the front to go in. Once you go in, you shut in and there's nothing. It's darkness. So all the doors were shut and it was something going on in every room.
Wow.
We went through all of those rooms and then we got to the place that it was hard for her to get to. It was a padlock on the door. She had locked her little girl self in the basement.
But to keep herself safe.
To keep her safe. She was protecting her. That was her mindset. She was protecting her little girl. And so she didn't want to let her come up because she felt like somebody would do her wrong. But what I helped her to see is that little girl was showing up anyway. And she was showing up in a very destructive manner. So much so that she was destroying the adult. And so it was hard for her to go to that basement door. So we took it step by step, what it felt like to even walk towards the door, what it felt like to stand in front of the door, what it felt like for her to put her hand on the knob to even think about putting the key in to unlock the door. And then even after all of that, there were still the steps that led down to the basement where the little girl resided. So we had to take it step by step. And one point we got all the way through, y'all, and this is weeks. This ain't no one session thing. This is weeks.
Takes time.
We get to the door, we open the door, we're at the steps. She takes a few steps and something happens. Trigger back. Everything. Close the door, lock it up. See, nope, I need to protect her. Mommy, daddy issues.
Wow.
It was tough to finally, now I've gotten her, thank God, to where the little girl can reside with her and she's now learning to nurture her little girl. She's learning to reparent. All of this took time. It took time because she thought she was doing what was important or what was safe. She was trying to protect herself, which is what most kids do when you experience trauma. Anybody, when you experience any type of trauma, your very thing is, I'm not going to ever let that happen to me again.
Wow.
That's never going to happen. And so you do whatever it takes to protect that by any means necessary. And hers was locking herself in the basement.
I know one of the things that I do when I speak to the clients is, like you said, much like with your client, And I don't know if this is people in general, or sometimes like we just want to pretend like that never happened, whatever that was. But I helped them to understand that, as you all were saying, the place of injury, your childlike self stays stuck there, but your physical body continues to grow into adulthood. So yes, if you look at us, we're adults. We're able to vote and drive and do all the things. But your emotion, your mental is stuck there.
Yeah.
And so you can never truly heal if you don't go back to that place of where you were stuck. Well, I just don't want to deal with it. However, we were talking about this in the previous episode. Then what we do is we numb it. And we'll do those self-soothing behaviors. And or if it's the person who injured me is no longer living anymore, well, how am I supposed to go forward? I know we have techniques for that we use. But what else do you also, Nikki and I share, what else do y'all use with clients?
I just go straight to the point. I just ask them, what is it that you want? What do you want to get out of this? And I've had individuals come and tell me, well, I just want someone to tell me I'm not a bad person.
Yeah.
And my thought process behind that is, why do you really need someone to tell you that if you know you're not a bad person? And we start to explore that. I've also had individuals that they want you to kind of walk them step by step, hand in hand. And sometimes that's okay, but I get to a point where I'm saying that you have to do a little bit of this work on your own, because if you're not willing to invest into it, then you're not going to take it very serious and then trying to get healed. Some people have to walk back all the way to that period because they can't see it for themselves. And you have to kind of walk back, and we have techniques for that. Walk them back through it. Okay, where are you at right now? Okay, let's come forward. And they'll be like, oh, wow, that's it right there. Or what was it? It was the fact that I was riding my bike, I fell off, and I yelled for somebody to be there, and nobody was there. I yelled for mom, I yelled for dad, nobody came, and I was left there to tend on my own. So what does it make that person do? Anytime something comes up, they want to say something, but they can't because they don't think the person that they need is going to show up. Yeah.
That's good.
So they have like a new narrative, because then because now that you're older, you can rationalize, well, maybe they didn't hear me. Maybe they were in the restroom, just so they can see, like, it wasn't that somebody wasn't there. I wasn't abandoned or rejected, but, now I can make sense of what was going on in my mom's world.
Right.
So I can have clarity in my now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I say too, kind of along what you just said with like just that self talk. Like if I know that I need a validation, instead of seeking it externally, I'm going to validate myself. Like, Rach, you doing a good job.
Yeah.
Girl, listen, you just killed that whole lasagna, I don't know, I'm making things
Not the
up.
lasagna.
Right.
You know what I mean? But just to like self-validate, it's that self-talk.
Yeah.
That you have to give yourself praise.
Yes.
Because that's the majority of the time, that's what you're seeking from as a kid. You're looking for them to validate you.
Yeah.
And, you have to begin to validate yourself. So that's my technique.
Yeah, absolutely.
I use all of the above. But I just want to add into there, just helping them to gain a sense of worthiness. That they are worthy, to be treated properly, to be loved properly. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That comes through the validation. Yes.
Yeah.
So worthiness, validation, positive affirmation, positive self-worth. These are a lot of the tools and techniques that we're generally using to help clients become unstuck.
Yeah.
So I was going to
Reparent.
So I'm thinking what I'm hearing, you sum that up and hearing everybody is like, you have to rebuild the person, help them rebuild themselves.
Yeah.
Or when you rebrand, if you will, yourself and become who you want to become. That's one of the things too that is still, at least because it's identity, right? You were told this or you were shown this as a kid, but you don't have to be that. Right. You can choose to be something different. So let's identify what it is that you want to be. Who do you want to be? This is what you thought you were. This is who other people said you were. But who do you want to be?
Right.
And once you identify that, then we have a goal. We have some place to go.
Yeah.
Because now the work is, I'm going to do what's necessary for me to get to that person, not be who everybody thought I should be or be who I was or who I thought I was. So I do this exercise with clients, and I think I talked about it in one of our previous earlier shows on the mirror challenge.
Mm-hmm.
So doing a mirror challenge, you go, and I mean, you're looking beyond just what's in front of you, what's staring at you, and you go deep. And I think that goes into that inner child, how they see you. Those are typically the words that come out. And for the most part, it's difficult. People think that it's an easy assignment, but it's not. It's really difficult to do that, to speak to yourself and say who you are, the truth about you. Now, not what you think and not what you want people to see, but the truth. That truth comes from within, that deepness, the in-depthness of who you are. And write it down. It's never positive for the most part for people, never positive. And so I have them take in how they felt and all of the things. And so then once we process that, I said, now your second part to that is, what's the truth about what you want? Because you just said all of these things about yourself. Is that what you want?
Yeah.
If that's not what you want, then let's work on what you want.
Yeah. I want to drop this just real quick. So I put in my note, jewel.
Okay,
Right.
I'm ready for the jewel.
So it says, your entire life is managed by your relationship with yourself. Your relationship with others are just a reflection of your own internal rules or guidance, values, opinions.
Say that one more time.
Your entire life is managed by your relationship with yourself. Your relationship with others are just a reflection of your own internal guidance, rules, values, opinions.
Yeah, I could see that.
So what does that look like in real time? Real person?
Sounds like view of self.
Battling within yourself.
Say that again, Kate?
Battling within yourself.
Okay.
So gaining the sense of view of self, right? Like I say I'm this, I say I'm that, and how I see others. Right? Is that kind of what you're saying? So determining your view of self. So how do you see yourself and how you see other people?
Was how you relate
to it.
Relate
to other people.
So how
you relate to yourself
is
how you relate to others.
Ooh,
so if you see yourself negatively, if you see yourself as all these negative things, then your relation with other people is going to be based on negative perspectives.
Right.
Ooh,
so
which is how people become petty.
Right. So if you think about it from even a EAP workplace perspective, I see that a lot. People will either voluntarily come in or they will be sent in by a supervisor, and they will say, well, I'm just not the best person that I could be. I'm this, I'm that, I'm that. Okay, fine. Well, I see some things we need to work on. Let's talk about communication. What are some of the things you're saying? I pick out those words that they're saying. Why that particular word? And then what they will say is, I will say, well, tell me what your supervisor is saying. It's the exact same thing in a different way. So it's all negative. The minute I get them to start seeing that they have to change their negative connotations and the positive ones, and they'll come back and see me 3 or 4 weeks. All right, so what are your supervisors saying now? It's pairing up.
Again, proving that how you see yourself is how.
Right.
So we project.
Garbage in, garbage out.
Yeah, we project onto others. So how do I know we've been talking about mommy daddy issues and inner child, right? And so a lot of these things are foundation. So I'm assuming we're going to say, we'll go with that. It's how the parents either talk to the kids or didn't talk to the kids. But where are some of the other places that we can get this language from that we then start to identify ourselves based on what we're taking in? Like you said, garbage in, garbage out. So where are we getting it from?
We get it from our parents. We get it from people that call themselves our friends. Teachers can play a role in that. Just think about it. You're struggling in school. You're trying. Oh, you're never going to get it. You're just dumb. And so what does that child do? I think I need special ed. It just goes down the wrong pathway. We get it from individuals at work. I don't understand how you got this job. You're this, you're that. And so what does that put you in? That puts you in a state that you either have to accept that or defend it. But if you're not at that point where you understand yourself fully, you're not going to defend it. You're going to accept it. And now it just keeps turning and turning.
Did y'all hear his language? Is when the person say you are.
You are.
Yes.
You are.
You versus I am.
Yes.
You have, that's where it is where someone tells you what you are.
Right.
Which is why it's important when I tell people to do that exercise. I don't want you to think about anything that anybody else has said about you. No titles, no nothing. It's nothing about what anyone else thinks. It's about you.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I say.
Yeah.
Wow. It seems like that's the hardest thing that I'm going to say a lot of us adults have to come to grips with is when you think positives about yourself. Unless you were raised up in a healthy environment where it was spoke into you, life was spoke into you, then you're like, okay. But 9 times out of 10, it's negatives and it's challenges. So as a child, you know, as we're talking about, you know, in a sense, tending to our inner child, how do we get those voices out of our heads? How do we not stand on that? Because I've seen 2 things, and then I hush. I've seen 2 things. One is either I take all of that in and I'm consistently beating myself up, even though I may not say you sorry, you this, you that. I'm hearing people say it, I'm hearing people challenge, or you flip it and you can stand on it, but then it falls back in what we was talking about in the first episode about being overachieving,
Right.
you know, workaholic, you know, all these different types of things. If somebody say, oh, you're never going to make it. Cause I remember seeing a basketball player, and he had posted a meme on social media and his teacher told him in school. So when you said teachers, I was like, oh my God, his teacher told him in school, I will be looking you up in a few years in the Fulton County prison. Now, mind you, he's in the NBA.
Yeah.
But when he posted that, just broke all kind of records and stuff. And of course, I'm angry because I'm like, let's go back and find that teacher and see what you think now. But people sometimes use those negatives to Superwoman cake. Go, because I got to prove.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I had a client who did that. So now since I've had all these accolades, I've achieved all these things. When somebody say, who are you? Or who I'm always proving myself or trying to prove why I belong here. So you see all of this. And so I'm not proving it really to myself. It's not really about me. It's about everybody else who told me I couldn't, who told me I wouldn't.
Right.
Now look at me. So anytime now, and then it's not healthy that we're responding like this, but now we're showing up and have to keep that Superman cape on because I got to keep proving to people that I am this. I deserve this. I'm supposed to be here. I can have this. Y'all, because they've been told that they shouldn't, they couldn't. Oh my God.
Got a question for y'all. Could that very well, and I'm only saying this because I've seen this clip, Dr. Miles Monroe. I don't know if y'all seen where I posted on our social media, and it was talking about people who chase titles. And he said people who chase titles is something wrong with them. And so he went out, it was very profound, but think about how many people we know that you are just stacking titles yet still miserable. Because you haven't healed your inner child.
Well, they're still trying to prove something to someone that said you can't do this or you'll never make this or, you know, I guarantee you can't do that. And so what does that do? It's like you said, it puts them into that Superman or Superwoman complex.
Wow.
This is just a theory that I have. That whole thing about not being able to accept a challenge or someone saying something negative to you, I think it goes back really in childhood. Because think about it, you see a baby that starts to walk along the couch and they fall. Nobody ever jumps and says, oh, you fell. No. There's like, oh, get back up. You're going to get it. You know, they try to give you that positivity, but that's the people on the outside. But what are you saying? You're saying, I fail. Even I think it's small, you like, something's not right because look how they've reacted. I think we kind of go off of the reactions of other people. Instead of sitting back saying that this is just me in this moment right now, I'm not going to always be in this same spot. And so do I propel myself by continuing to try? Nobody walks at the same time. Nobody gets the teeth at the exact same time. And it's hard to get a baby to understand that. But I think as we get older, we see those things around us, but it's society that tells us certain things. Who says that because I'm in the 3rd grade, I should know all my multiplication tables? Society does. So when you have a child that's there and he doesn't get 3 times 3 is 9, and then he starts having problems in math, but later on in life, guess what happens? When he gets on track, he ends up being the scientist and somebody else ends up somewhere totally different. I think it's individualistic, but once again, what we have to do is the earlier we can catch something, then the quicker we can get past it, the quicker we can get into healing. I think the problem with a lot of adults right now that have had mommy and daddy issues is that it took too long to get to that point where they wanted to heal.
Yeah, I wanted to
Go
just
ahead.
want to answer that question. This is the lady in St. Louis. Shout out to you. Her name is Tracy McGee. I think I'm saying her name right, but she has this program for youth girls called I Define Me, and I believe at some point you have to define yourself because so long, right? You are attached. Your identity is attached based on what someone says about you. Like you are this, you are that. And you have to internalize and make it personal. Like, no, I define me. I am this. I am intelligent. You know, I go as far as to your faith because the creator knows exactly who you are. So gravitate into what the word God says that you are. You are a royal priesthood. You are made in my image and likeness. You are very good, right? So I think the way you begin to like get those negative views out of your heart and your mind is going to God for prayer and ask him to wash your consciousness, but also just refueling yourself and defining who you are on your own.
I like that. Well, I'm hearing positive affirmations, right? Speaking positively to yourself, going to that as well, from healing from mommy daddy things even into healing inner child to have too. So for the mommy daddy or daddy mommy issues, engaging in self-reflection and exploration to understand how parental influences have shaped your beliefs, your behaviors, and identity, allowing for personal growth so that you can become authentic. So you got to sit down and take some time. You know, it's not going to be a race. There's no quick fix to it. You have to take the time. And I think that's one of the things that people don't want to do is take time to, slow down and actually tend to what it is that is actually bothering them, because it ain't me, it's you. Okay, I'm gonna leave that right there. The thing for inner child to help create a space, a safe space for yourself. So cultivate a safe space, safe and nurturing environment within yourself. That time, sit down, get by yourself, get where where your inner child feels heard, loved, and supported.
That's good.
But you can't do that with all this noise, all the chaos and all the things going on, and all the time that you're sitting there blaming other people. Like I said earlier with part of my testimony, I went to God before for my talking about my husband, and God turned it on to me. He showed me. He wouldn't have been able to show me if I wouldn't have taken time to sit still and actually hear about me. I'm big on self-reflection. I am very big. So that question that I have my clients do with the mirror challenge, I do it on a regular for myself because we are always forever evolving. So I want to know, what is the truth that I'm speaking about myself in this moment, in this season of my life? But if I wouldn't have taken that time, God would have never been able to show me what he showed me about myself, how I was showing up and how I was projecting.
Wow. This is amazing. This is amazing. So if I could ask this question of you all. So say that someone is listening right now and they know they struggle with mommy and daddy issues. Okay. We've helped them identify some things in the last show and this show, but they have children. Like, how could we help them to kind of cope with their issue and be healthier? Because I'm realizing, ooh, that's me. I don't want this to continue to pass down through the generations to my children. What do I do? Can y'all please give me the direction and how I go from here? Because I'm trying not to regress and just pretend like it never happened, yet I don't want to put this on my children.
That encourage therapy.
Therapy. Definitely therapy. Someone you trust that you can sit down with and really walk those things out. I know I said someone you trust, but I want to go back to what Larissa said. Therapy. Please, therapy. Because while your friends might be a good listener, they're gonna offer you advice that it's not gonna be helpful to you because they don't know. Maybe they even dealing with their own stuff.
There you go.
So they're going to try and guide you based upon their perspective. And with a therapist, they're unbiased, right? They're not in your life. They don't really even know anything. So they're giving you perspective based upon what goals you say you have. Not that, girl, if it was me, I'd be cussing them out, or I just say forget them and walk away. No, that ain't how you handle that. If you want to be healed, you saying you don't take and pass this along to your child because you are a parent. How can I learn to be learn to parent myself when I need to be a parent? That what I said, take that time to create that space.
I would say if you mess up too, if you find that you did project onto your kids, I would say take time to repair. Like to go back to your kids, like, hey, you know what I just did, it was wrong. I'm sorry. How are you feeling right now? What did I say? You know, okay, I want to hug you. I want you to know that I love you. I didn't really mean that, I blurted that out of my mouth. I would say repair. Like if you cause injury to your children, make sure you go back and repair. And you can repair. You can say you're sorry. You can apologize. You can do it over again, whatever the case may be. Go sit down and bring them to the table with you. Bring them to counseling with you. Encourage them to go to counseling themselves because, hey, you have time. That's what I want to reiterate.
Yeah. And that's one thing I really have seen a lot of, especially when we were in internship, had a lot of families coming in and mom and daddy don't see anything, but the kids see it. And so it was that family sculpting. Blew my mind.
I did.
I love
But family sculpting,
Yeah.
that opens up a whole new insight because even though we're adults, I may not want to take something from you because I may be sitting in the counseling room thinking, I don't want this man telling me anything about myself. I'm a little biased already. But when your own child starts to speak truth,
out of the mouth, the
there you go.
Can you break down family sculpting a little bit?
Oh, let me try. It's been a while since I did it, but basically the way we were kind of taught how you do it, you have a family and they always say that youngest child may be an individual that knows a lot. And you want to give them that voice. And so basically what you're going to do is explain to them all is that you're about to partake in an exercise and this child here, little Johnny, is going to sculpt everybody. Now, when I say sculpt, it's very similar to that. He is going to put you in a position and you have to stay in that position until the exercise is over with. And so Johnny gets to sculpt daddy. Then he sculpts mommy. Then he sculpts his brothers and his sisters. Then he turns around and he freezes, sculpts himself. And then everybody has to look at what position that they're in.
Powerful.
And I will tell you that one of the first times I did this, once it was all over with, the two parents were in tears. Because they didn't realize the thing that they were doing, that they were projecting onto their children. And they could see what they did, and they saw the reactions of the children. And one of them, one of the little kids went and hid up under the table. And that just, everybody was, and the good thing about family sculpting, you don't just start with that one and stop there. Everybody gets an opportunity to sculpt everybody. And so that way you're doing everything as a whole. So it's very revealing. And if they're willing to do the work and they're really accepting of that, they realize they have to make a change because it showed out to them right in front of them.
That's huge.
Especially when you're that neutral person. I don't know nothing about that's what he put.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow. That is very, very powerful. Y'all, I know we have come at this thing and did it in two sessions and it's still in more.
Probably could.
I know we could. It's still so much. We encourage you all that if you have questions or things that you want us to address, please put it in the comments. Let us know. Reach out to us and let us know what it is that you want us to discuss more in depth. Or if you have questions about any show that you watched of ours, please ask. We will answer. We will answer. So we're gonna wrap this segment up. I want us to if you can give one word or one sentence to the people, what would it be as it pertains to mommy daddy issues and inner child work?
heal.
Mm.
Repair.
I'm going to leave you with a question. What relationship do you have with yourself?
Ooh, communicate.
Go get the counseling that you need to heal.
Wow. There you have it, y'all. Out of the mouths of 5 very qualified therapists. We thank you all so much for joining us here tonight on Talk Therapy Heal. We hope that something that was stated to you or stated tonight or some testimony that you heard impacted you in a way that is going to cause you to want to make change in your life. We ask that you do us a favor as we've been pouring out to y'all, that y'all help us out by hitting that like button, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Also, don't forget to share, y'all.
Yes.
Because like I say, sharing is caring. Thank you. We'll see y'all next time here at Talk Therapy Heal.
Bye.
Bye.